Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Fridays with Steve. I'm your host, Steve Thompson, Vice President of Solutions and Alliances here at Apex. Thanks for joining us, whether you're joining us live or joining us after the fact. We're going to start, I think, what's going to be a bit of a recurring series. I don't know if some of you have had this same experience. We're in those apps and doing the things we do every day, but every once in a while, I hit the grid button and take a look, and man, there's a lot of apps out there. And I think we're going to go on a bit of a tour of the apps that are available in Microsoft 365, talk a little bit about them, talk a little bit about how they work together. And so for whatever reason, I got the grand idea to start with Visio. Visio being one of my favorite apps, going back a long, long time. If you happen to see my post about this, going all the way back to 2002 and some of my first times working for Microsoft and working with some people that came over in the Visio acquisition. Super passionate about the product, sort of classic story of, really kind of a niche solution that, that ends up being a part of something much larger. And it was always cool to work with those guys because they had such passion for the product. And for me in those early days, really as an IT engineering tool, I remember trying to make sure I had the right, like server or router and switch images. You could download image packs from folks like Cisco and IBM and Compaq at the time, and make sure you had the right sort of line art when it came to your Visio diagrams. And so my history with the product goes back that far. I think it's super cool. I've always thought that there's tons of applications for it within a lot of different businesses. Obviously, I came at it from an IT lens, but I think there's a lot of opportunity to look at this in kind of a new way. And so we'll talk a little bit about Visio, making sure everybody's sort of level set on what we're talking about. We'll talk about how it fits in some different industries with some different roles. Again, coming from Microsoft, you sort of start to think everything in life is a PowerPoint slide. Not always the case, as it turns out. And there's some really interesting real world, use cases and things that I'll show some lists and kind of talk about a few of them in greater detail. Talk about the different plans and kind of what's in and what's out, and hopefully leave you with some ideas about how this might fit in your environment. It's kind of ironic that with the cloud, you have a greater ability to sort of target these niche products, manage the licensing, manage the adoption and consumption in super meaningful ways. Again, I remember the days of the folks that needed Visio or the folks that needed project and license keys and how many CDs have we bought and all that kind of good stuff. Are people still using it? And now that it's moved into this cloud modality, it's actually a lot more manageable than it used to be. And so I think there's some interesting opportunities if you haven't thought about Visio in a while. So my marketing manager, Michael Dupre, he's stretching his legs on the jokes and the puns. And so we came to a truce. The truce was I'll leave the slides in, but I refuse to read them. So sprinkled through as we make some transitions, you'll see our attempt at a little bit of levity. And so Visio is a super amazing tool. Lots of folks think about it, initially as the flowchart tool. But when it comes to graphic design and visualizing data and transmitting ideas in a really, really meaningful way, Visio does an amazing job in that space, right? Modeling processes, data insights, including real-time data insights, being able to feed Visio output from data sources is something that's a really interesting evolution with the product. Having the ability to view Visio and view the content without necessarily having to have that full experience. Sort of, if you think about like the Adobe world, right? There's a difference between being a creator and a consumer, right? We're all consumers of PDFs. You can think of Visio in the same way with viewer technology and the ability to embed the content in other modes, right? Word documents, PowerPoint slides, web content, whatever it might be. And so it really, and I think as I put up these lists, you'll see yourself reflected, whether it's by industry or by role, and have some interesting ideas about the capability. I've actually run into a few customers that might be Microsoft 365 customers and consuming and adopting a lot of the technology there and using sort of one-off web-based tools for this kind of process modeling or flow charting and things like that. Not even realizing that there's something that they can bring into that same environment in which they're doing everything else. And it's really driven to try and make it simple. I think one example for me historically has always been I've had the occasion a few times, whether it's thinking about furniture layouts in a home or building a pole building, out here at our current house where, hey, I need to lay this out and do scale diagrams and things like that. And I sort of turned to Visio. Simply, I'm not a CAD CAM guy, right? I'm not not an interior designer either. But it was a super approachable tool for doing those kinds of things. And so even in my personal life, it still had that capability. And super professional. Here we see it built right into Teams, right? So that collaboration story, we'll talk about how it does sort of seamlessly integrate into a lot of the other M365 properties that we know and love. And then that last bullet around connecting it to real-time data, right? Taking the output from a database to inform, Visio diagrams created based off data. And so, the integration with Teams, being able to view, edit, collaborate, right within Teams. I know for a lot of customers, their consumption of Excel or of Word has dramatically changed now in the Teams era. And so Visio fits into that same mode. Same with Word and PowerPoint. I sort of mentioned that already. I think PowerPoint introduced over time a lot of their tools around smart art and flow charting and things like that. And it's pretty good. Sometimes it's not good enough, right? And I find myself sort of retreating to something like Visio to be able to really do those visualizations. And then getting data insights, we talked about, whether it's Power BI or Excel, and being able to take data and visualize it, whether it's data relationships or the outputs of the data, being able to bring it into a visualization tool really, really goes a long way. And then this last one, we talk a lot about the Power Platform and being able to, model and automate processes and really do it as I wouldn't say end user, but a power user or a business analyst. Well, you can take Visio diagrams and turn them into Power Automate, right? So we have that ability to go back and forth with the Power Platform and use it as a design and modeling tool. Really being able to see what you're building and be able to get a good sense of what the flow is going to look like, what the output is going to look like. So I mentioned that we talk about some ideas based off of industry, based off of role, and just try and get a few of these to resonate. I mean, across much of them, I think workflow visualization is something that's pretty key. Apex is growing. We're adding new staff. We are growing into new territories. We are adding more solutions. We're adding more partners, distributors or solution and technology partners. And one of the things that I've had to do with our own team is just really sit down and map out what a process looks like. Um, we use Microsoft CRM, but to really get a picture, and maybe that's just what I need them to do to help me out, to get a picture of what's really going on when it comes to opportunity flow, when it comes to our marketing campaigns. I really need to see it visually, and having a tool like this is super critical for taking and modeling that within our organization. Transportation, reservation data, timelines and processes, technology, obviously near and dear to my heart, right? And this is that long history of, rack diagrams and network schematics and data flows and cloud architecture. Hey, where is that? Where is that firewall in this process? Where is it, public cloud? Where is it private network? Being able to create a picture that helps us, helps others understand what's really going on in what can be a really, really complicated process. I know in that world, it's still super valuable, especially as you work hybrid, as you think about zero trust, as you think about remote work, being able to visually demonstrate, hey, when is something traversing a public network? When is something behind our firewall? Where are the gates? Where are the data flows within our environment? Manufacturing, obviously, we can see lots of utility there when it comes to, quality control, R&D, manufacturing process, and then in healthcare. Again, what is the visualization of how a claim flows through the environment? It touching lots of different systems. Some of them are probably Fortran, which, frightens me a little bit. So having a visualization of what's really going on can be super, super critical. And so hopefully, a few ideas now percolating with you when it comes to these different industries. And then let's take and look at the sort of the role lens. Again, information technology, different roles have different needs, right? Network diagrams, reference architectures, visualizing an incident. What happened? How did we bounce around? How did something nefarious bounce around our environment, and do some of that root cause analysis? A workflow in the courtroom, or operational support around business analysis, blending the technology touch points with the approval or people touch points within an organization. Organizational charts, employee orientation flow, based on role. Maybe you can model out, everybody comes in the door and does an I-9, but then if they're sales, they go take this, training class. And if they're marketing, they go take this training class. And if they're finance, we validate that they have their, CPA license or whatever it might be. Being able to collapse that all into a single process with branching and with decision making and things like that can be super, super powerful. And so, here are some roles, here are some specific opportunities within these different environments to sort of think about Visio and think about the power of visualization. I know one of the struggles we have is documenting processes, right? And being able to morph as we move from a small to a medium-sized organization to, someday continuing to grow, and who knows what the future holds. I have to think about my team in the lens of what are people's roles, not what Michael does, for example, not what a specific person does. I need to think about the role, because someday I might have 5 Michaels, or someday I might have, 3 Adrianas. And because of that, I need that role level clarity, and Visio can really help me visualize that versus Word documents that fall into disrepair, there's been lots of attempts at this kind of stuff. For a while in my time at HP, the mantra was, well, let's make everything a wiki, right? Let's do this multi-edit, centrally shared sort of documentation about what we do. It was interesting. I think it was a good learning experience. But most people are visual, right? Most people are learning in different ways. And so because of that, really want to ensure that that people have that ability to learn as they want to learn. And so, when you think about these challenges, when you think about your ability to tackle these things, Visio can help, right? Complex ideas, not everything, like I said, not everything is a PowerPoint slide. Um, not having everybody in the room to whiteboard. We've got some cool solutions for that too. Ask me about Microsoft Teams rooms and things like a Logi Scribe that can grab whiteboard content and make it digital. But at the same time, having these visualizations for people who work remote or who aren't co-located with you can be super, super powerful. And Visio can help you address all of these different things. There is something to be said as well for that familiarity, right? That office productivity story. Again, I'm old enough to remember the launch of Office Professional in a single box being a game changer, right? The fact that these applications, use technology to talk to each other and embed, Excel spreadsheets in Word documents, and had similar feels and had all the same spell checker behind the scenes and so forth. And that was a huge, huge step. And while that's not a step that's really meaningful anymore, we've all taken it. Having additional apps, additional solutions fit into that same sort of modality is super powerful, right? It looks and feels like the things your users are comfortable with. And I mentioned in this cloud era, it's actually kind of interesting that, managing project licensing, managing Visio licensing, managing those, things that aren't rolled out to the whole organization. You've got 500 seats of E3, but you've got 28 project people. You've got 31 Visio people. That world has just been made so, so much easier, versus literally, CDs or individual, volume licensing kinds of things, and managing those licenses. Bill left and Sue's not using it anymore because she transferred departments. You really have the opportunity to stay on top of licensing and stay on top of usage and consumption. So here we go again. I was distracted for a second. I saw Michael joining. I thought maybe he was going to fight me on these slides and want to tell his jokes, and make sure I didn't skip over him too fast. But the point being, why Visio in the cloud, right? So there's still folks using on-prem Visio and have good reasons to do so, or have it as a carryover. But when you move it to the cloud, we talked about a lot of the usage and consumption advantages. You're certainly upgrading to the latest feature set. You have the opportunity as well to bring in that real-time data. And so there's two Visio plans. Not going to make this a licensing discussion. That's something we can help with, when the time is right. But both plans, bring you that creation and the collaboration piece. It's the second plan that adds that data connectivity. And it's a little bit of a higher order use case, but for the folks that need it, critically important. And so just at a high level, the fact that it adds a couple gig of OneDrive for business, probably not super interesting. A lot of the customers we talk to, aren't sort of at that end of the spectrum. We're more in the mid-market, and so they've already got this stuff in place. They've already got people with seats of business premium or E3 or E5, and so we're really just adding Visio to what they're doing. And you can see that Plan 1 sort of gives you that complete Visio experience. Plan 2, process data into diagrams, diagram shapes to live data, database models from existing databases. That's where you get into that real-time data connection. And the other difference being, if you do want to create or keep that Visio desktop, you've got to move to Plan 2. And so just a couple of screenshots and a couple of points around just the capability, right? Access for everyone, so multi-author, secure sharing. You can see we've got that share functionality right within. You can get the experience right from within Microsoft Teams. Like I said, more and more of our customers are relying on the Word experience, the Excel experience right within Teams, turning Teams into something of a desktop, including things like in-app comments, right? I know I rely on conversations around documents being centered in Teams and being centered in the documents themselves. As much as we can do there and preserve and keep those conversations to understand the why going forward, super, super powerful. So here's that real-time data piece, drill into detail, bring those BI report views in, export diagrams as flows, and so that integration with Power Automate, being able to see these things and manage them both online and within Excel. So here's a view of some of that Visio work, right next to Power BI data. And so with that Plan 2, you can really enhance the capability of Visio. And it's one copy. The thing that honestly every once in a while I still get to educate a customer about is that by leveraging the cloud, there's always one version of the truth, right? Versioning is something that's a thing of the past. That you can keep the latest version of the software and keep the storage of the diagrams and the documents in the cloud and make sure that they are always up to date. It supports information rights management, labeling, dark theme support, being able to open and manage old files. All the things I think we've come to expect as just sort of baseline functionality when it comes to those Office applications, the productivity applications, just now available with Visio in the cloud. And so I've got some examples. We don't have time for it this morning, but I've got some examples that I can point you to around, hey, what do these Power BI and sort of Visio integration, what does it look and feel like? And so take a look, aka.ms Visio PBI for Power BI, and take a look at how these things are pretty powerful, and making sure that you want to understand how you can think about this in your environment. And it probably doesn't start here, but I'd encourage you to look for that low-hanging fruit and opportunity where the solution can map in. I know in the early days of Teams, one of the ways we would relate it to customers is, hey, let's think about that first team. Let's think about that first project or that first business product, that first business process, and move it into Teams, right? How about we co-author the monthly status report, post it in Teams, have a conversation? And that seems like so long ago, or seems like it's so rudimentary, but that's how we introduce people to it. So find that low-hanging fruit for Visio and make that first attempt at sort of changing the game when it comes to Visio modeling. Looks like we have a a long road to go together, navigating these wonderful quips from our marketing team. Because like I said, I think one of the things I want to do is just spend 25 minutes, once a week, uh, going after, applications like Stream and going after applications like Project, and just making sure that every once in a while, like I said, we hit the grid and say, hey, what's out there? Frankly, some of you, in many cases, are already licensed for some of this stuff. And I think there's some great low-hanging fruit and use cases when it comes to these additional applications. And then when the time's right, give us a call. Apex Digital Solutions has been around for a long time, helped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of customers with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of projects and deployments. We've already sort of adopted the new Microsoft nomenclature around solutions partner. You'll see sort of that gold and silver kind of framework that's been around forever, back to my day, start to disappear and be replaced with the solution partner framework. And so we're happy to already be a modern work partner when it comes to that new program. Also excited, MSP 500 for this year, cool place to work. Deep business, corporate culture. We've got a great thing going, and we just love helping customers. And so when the time's right, give us a call. And if you're located in the Detroit area, and voice and that integration with Teams, taking collaboration to its logical endpoints around voice and video and meetings and rooms. We're going to have an event on March 15th in Ferndale, where we are going to bring in 8x8, one of our critical and most important partners, and have a little bit of a discussion around the landscape and where the solutions are at with regards to voice. We're having more and more customers collapse their infrastructure when it's PBX renewal time or end of life time with voice infrastructure, seeing that all of their employees are already talking to each other via Teams and helping them open it up to the world, right? Still got to connect to the PSTN, to the telephone network, and helping them do that, whether it's with Microsoft calling plans or whether it's with a great partner like 8x8. And so if you're interested, help out and register. I know seats are limited and it's filling up really, really fast. We'll do everything we can to make sure that we have the opportunity to speak to you. And it'll be a little bit of fun to, brown liquid in fancy bottles, and learn something about that process as well. I know I'm looking forward to it, and meeting with customers here in just a little bit. And so next steps, if you're ready, whether it's Visio or whether it's anything else we've covered in Fridays with Steve, or it's really any topic in this space, reach out to your account executive. If you don't have account executive, if you're a new customer, just reach out to sales. In either case, if you'd like to, just reach out to me directly, sthompson@apexdigital.com. Happy to have a conversation. Happy to talk to you about your needs or any questions you might have that I can answer. And when appropriate, let's get our account and engineering teams engaged and see if we can help. Our website is host to a lot of great information, assets in this space, from unboxing videos to case studies. We've got lots of good stuff that we'd love to share with you. So that's it. That's our whirlwind tour around Visio. Many thanks to my friends at Microsoft back in the day, making sure I never, ever forgot about Visio and how important it is to the solution story around Microsoft Office, especially Chun. Miss you, bud. And it's an important tool, and something that in this cloud environment, it's actually much more approachable than it used to be. Easy to license, easy to deploy, and ensure consumption, as well as a great fit for lots of needs within your organization. With that, have a great rest of your day, and look forward to talking to you next time.